Morning everybody. Today I'm going to talk to you about making homemade watercolours. I've got this little sheet that I prepared earlier. I'm hoping you can see this. And I used coffee with water, rhubarb with water, grass, red cabbage, onions and turmeric. I mixed them in little pots like this. I will put a photograph of this on the tutorial later, and I mix them up in little pots like this. The instructions will be on the sheet, so you can have a look and try them yourself, but don't be afraid of using other vegetables, fruits, dyes from your cookery cupboard, tea, coffee. All different teas have different colours. We've done this in classes before. You don't have to have paint at home in order to produce colours to paint with, so have a bit of a play. And like I said, put them down on paper, label them and make a record of what you've done, and let them dry, because they dry completely differently to when you put them down. First of all, they don't look very intense. They look like this rhubarb one, which isn't great, but this has gone from being a sort of very pale purpley colour to purple, and then into this sort of almost turquoise colour, which is incredible. I also did cabbage, cooked cabbage, which will give you a green, but I haven't got a swatch of that, so yeah, maybe next time I do this we'll do it. So I'm going to use these colours just to show you how to paint a few very basic trees. So I've got this lovely red cabbage colour, which is like a purple, but like I said, when it dries it goes almost blue. So I'm just going to paint a quick winter tree, and I'm going to start. I'm using a rigger brush here. The only thing you've got to be careful of with these colours is that they are effectively dyes. So something like a turmeric, which is quite strong, is likely to colour your brushes. So make sure that once you've used the colours that you wash your brushes out really well. So start by pressing down where the trunk is, quite hard like this. And then as you're going towards the top of the tree, just start lifting your brush up and flick. Okay. Same again. I've dipped the paint into the brush into the colour again, and I'm just going to twist and turn the brush as I'm going. Dip it in, make the base of the trunk a little thicker, and maybe bring a branch further up. Lift the brush upright. So start by press it almost flat, and then as you're going up, lift it so that the brush is vertical. I hope you can see that clearly with what I'm doing. So press, so all the brush makes contact with the paper, and lift vertical. And just keep going until you've got the required amount of branches. Remember to keep your branches as varied as possible. Don't get into a rhythm of producing branches that are all very similar. And also look at some trees in real life just to see how they're formed, especially in the winter. It's really good because there's no leaves on the trees, and you can see a little bit more clearly as to how these structures are formed without the leaves on them. So you can see now I'm coming to the end of the branches. Make sure you have some thick branches and some thin branches. And as you come to the end, start working a little bit more with the tip of your brush. This is why these riggers are so good, because you don't have to go looking for other brushes. You can do a complete tree with your one brush, because it'll make thick marks and thin marks. And you desperately need those thin branches at the end for these trees. You don't want to use a round brush for the whole project, because you'll find that the branches on the end will be very stubby because of the round nature of the brush. So just be aware of that. Have some branches that look like they're going behind one another, but also leave some gaps so that you can see through your tree. So you can see the beautiful colours coming out of just this red cabbage dye. It's just so pretty. And obviously if you wanted a brown, you just use your coffee or your tea. Okay, so there's a winter tree. I'm just going to now have a look at a more of a spruce type tree. Now, because we've only got grass green, we'll have to see how well this turns out. But the green is nice, it's just very subtle. So with a sort of spruce or a fir tree, what you want to do is, again, use your rigger. Whoop. Sorry, my book just fell over. Use your rigger brush. Pick up your green colour. The green colour is grass mixed with water. Oops. Let me just mop that up. Again, start at the bottom where the trunk is and create your trunk shape. You can see that the colour is not quite as intense as the red cabbage. So a nice point all the way up the middle. Obviously needs to be wider at the bottom, getting narrower as it goes to the top of the tree. So nice and thin, and remember, use that technique, press and then lift. And then you can go in with the tip of your brush and start to put in some little, now the tip with a spruce or a pine is to just have the odd suggestion of leaf at the top, and then as you come down, just make it thicker. So I'm adding more colour in here as I come lower down, like this, and just use these flicky outward movements from the middle of the trunk. I'm getting this everywhere. Keep going. As you can see, it's quite an interesting. I think if you were to mix in more grass, you'd probably get a more intense. Plus the fact I used grass that had been sitting for a while, already cut. So I think if you cut your grass and immediately put that into some water, you might get a stronger colour. Now, I'm just going to pick up some coffee, and I'm going to put a little bit of coffee down the middle of that tree, like that. And that'll just give you a little bit of tonal difference to play with. Okay, so there's your spruce tree in coffee. I should write these down really, shouldn't I? So this was red cabbage. And you can see it's going this wonderful blue, such a lovely colour that is. This is grass and coffee. Okay, so another tree shape shall we find? So we're going to go for another autumnal tree this time. So I'm going to use my rigger brush again, and this time I'm just going to use the coffee, and I'm just going to create a little, this is going to be like almost like a willow tree. So we got the base going up to these very pointed, you can see how intense that coffee is. It's actually a beautifully strong colour, like this. So the willow, or most of the branches grow out from the main trunk. So again, just flick, I'm just going to put another one there, oops. Press down where it's thicker, because I made a blob there, I'm just going to make that one a little bit thicker. And again, just flick up from that main structure, like so. Wipe your brush off, and I'm going to take some turmeric now, and I'm just going to put in some very small autumnal leaves just by dotting. So I'm using the end of my brush, and I'm just going to put in some little dots like this, and they look like leaves that are just about to fall off in the wind, like so. Just small amount, not too many. You want it to be the very last of the leaf. You could even put a little bit of your grass green in there, just a touch, because the green that comes off the grass is quite sort of, it's not fresh green, it's not a spring green that you would necessarily use. And there's your third tree. So this is a sort of a willow or a birch, autumnal. Okay, let me think now, what else can we do? How about a more sort of another alpine? Okay, so we're going to go in with the brown again, and we're going to do another tree here. So straight up again, nice and tall, and we'll do two of these like so. So draw in the trunk. These sort of more pine based trees, we've got a lot of them around here in Wales. There's a lot of forestry, and there's a few that were planted in arboretums and things like that around the place. So again, you've got some branches coming out there like that, very subtle, very easy to do, just with this coffee. What did I do that with? I did coffee, turmeric and grass. So this one I'm using coffee, and we will pick up the green of the grass again, even though it's not very strong. And we'll just, this time, we'll just put in, I'm just going to move my water over a little bit. I hope you can see this. Yeah, you can. We're just going to put in a different type of mark, and it's going to be a slightly upward flick. So just flick up like that. So brush down and flick. Again, yeah, so I'm going to do all the marks coming this way, because they will look like they're being blown in one direction, like so. Generally, you'll find that these trees tend to grow in one direction depending on which direction the wind tends to come from in that area. So they tend to be sort of heavily weighted on one side. Just put some marks up the top there. Very loose mark making and just very minimal as well. You know, you might find that there are other trees around in the distance that will give you more body, but a minimal application of paint here. Let's try a little bit of that purple in as well, just to give it a little bit of colour, like that. Very subtle, and like I said, if you need stronger pigments, then just intensify the amount of material that you're using. I'm just going to put a bit of yellow in there as well, I think. Maybe it act as a bit of a highlight on the ends of those foliage structures. That one was a bit, just highlights. There you go. And I'm not too bothered about that one. I'm put a little bit of colour there, maybe a bit more there. If you do get a little bit too much in an area, just take a tissue and just soak it up. Okay, so there you have, I've used cabbage and grass and turmeric there again. Okay, you can let things dry off, and once they've dried off, if you wanted to, you could add more in. So like with the red cabbage winter tree here, if you did want to put a shadow down one side, you could put that in. We've got a red spider mite crawling across my work here. Yeah, once it's dry, you can add extra little bits in. You could even take a different colour, maybe a bit of brown, and just put in some extra branches here and there if you wanted to, just to give it a little bit more intensity. Those ends of branches are really nice, so don't be frightened to keep adding if you need to. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Have a go at making some of your own paints. It's quite satisfying, and especially in these times where we can't access art shops, and sometimes, you know, even on the internet, the colours are not available to you. So it's a good idea to use what you've got in your cupboards. Use those unusual colours that you might find, and they do last. They're quite strong, they grip the paper well, so you don't need to worry about them fading and things like that. So have a go. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please send me questions, add comments, and subscribe and share, and let me know what magical colours you come up with. Thanks for watching.